I think I'll ask you about that to begin with, actually. The sort of dynamic within your changing room. You just said to me there, kind of little jobs around the place get delegated to you as one of those more senior figures now. There's quite a lot of experience in this group of players, not necessarily EFL experience. What's the dynamic like in there, and what's it like for you moving into a sort of senior role in a changing room?
Yeah, we've got a great changing room down there. There's a lot of different characters. Some more lively than others. Some chilled out, but I think we've got a real good mix in the group, to be honest. And like I say, finding myself as one of the more senior players now, one of the older heads, it changes very quickly. You go from being this young boy put into a professional world where it's cutthroat, and next thing you're one of the senior players and sort of helping the younger ones come through. So yeah, it's a role I really enjoy, and hopefully can help out a lot of the players with that.
How important is that dynamic that you've got, and how important is that spirit, particularly when things results-wise aren't going the way that you want them to?
Oh, it's massive. You'll see in teams that are doing very well, they've got good morale, and it's very easy to when the results are going well. But when the results are going against you, it can be very difficult to have that. But we're very fortunate here. No one gets onto each other. There's no arguments, no anything, which you think there would be probably at the bottom of the league when results aren't going your way. But I think the thing is, we're such a together group, and we've got such a tight-knit group. I think we've just been unfortunate at times. So I think once we get a couple of results, you'll see it will really pick up.
I guess there's a sort of theme with the performances that you feel like you've not got what you've deserved from those performances. How important is it when you do it, whether it's in the trophy, whether it's in the FA Cup last weekend, whether it's the one league game that you've won, that you sort of capitalise on that and you get belief from that?
Oh, massive. It's huge. There's probably games that we played better this year and we haven't got a result, and there's games, like last weekend, probably wasn't our best performance, but we got the result. So it's a strange game, football, that you could probably have your best ever game and not get anything from it, and you could probably play your worst game and come out with 3 points. So at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter how you perform. It's obviously all about getting the results at the end of the day, and it's a difficult one to take sometimes.
You have a unique perspective because it's all unfolding in front of you. Do you see things in the performances and think that's what we need to do more of, that's what we're all about, that's what we're good at?
Yeah, I think sometimes, obviously I've got a view of the whole pitch, so there's things that I'll probably see that others probably won't, but at times as well it can be very difficult for me to see certain things as well, because I've got 21 players in front of me, so sometimes there might be stuff that I might not see quite the same as someone would looking from the side. So yeah, we all have our different views and perspectives, and every game we digest, we dissect it and see how we could do better the following game.
Is it harder to be a goalkeeper when you're at the bottom of the league? Are the stakes higher? I know you've been really honest even this season about mistakes that you've made and costing the team points. Are those margins and those little moments that could go either way even more stark when you really need those points?
I think it's the same, whether you're top of the league or whether you're bottom of the league. The points are so precious. Even if you look like at any position in the league, at the end of the day, those points are precious. You don't get a chance to win them again. So you probably do feel a bit more pressure when you're out at the bottom, because obviously you're so eager to get that result and so eager to get that win that it would really help. But equally, it's the same if you're at the top of the league. If you slip up and you lose a couple of points, you find yourself sort of creeping down. So things can change very quickly in football. You can find yourself bottom of the league, and within sort of 3 or 4 games you could be mid-table, and then you could be pushing and looking at playoffs. It's such a strange old league, to be honest. But yeah, like I say, it's just getting that momentum in the first place.
And I guess when you're in a situation where you feel like an individual mistake has cost you, a moment of brilliance from the opposition, maybe a decision that's not gone your way, do you have to believe that that'll happen in your favour at some point and that this will change? And it's that old phrase, isn't it? You make your own luck.
Yeah, definitely. You've got to be prepared that decisions are going to go against you, that players are going to make mistakes, and no one goes into a game thinking, I'm going to make a mistake here, or no one means to make a mistake, so they just happen. But sometimes decisions will go against you, so you've just got to try your best to overcome them and think, well, this decision's gone against us, but can we still get the result? Were we good enough regardless of that one decision?
Being where you are in the league, I get more than you would possibly believe, people saying we don't look at the league table, we're not concentrating on that. Is it impossible to ignore it when you're in the relegation zone?
I think you don't want to pay too much attention to it, but at the same time you've got to know, because otherwise if you go out there not knowing, then there's times where you might do something silly, or you might be, you could be chasing the game, or you could be trying to hold on, and you think, well, you know what, we really need this, so you might perhaps play it a little bit differently. But I think in the back of your mind you've got to know where you are in the table, but at the same time, like I said, it can change quickly, so I wouldn't dwell too much on it.
Does it, you say the mindset there, does it give you potentially that backs to the wall underdog mentality kind of thing that, I mean, you tell me, but I get the impression that your manager particularly quite enjoys that?
Yeah, I think so, yeah. I mean, you look at obviously our budget that we've got this year compared to the majority of the league, it is a lot smaller. We have got, a new team coming in, got 18 new players, so it is difficult, but we can't use these as excuses. We've been together quite a while now, the team, we are gelling, and, we are getting better week in, week out. There will be times where performances aren't quite as high as they should be, because you can't go play 46 games in a season and be unbelievable in every one, but we just have to make sure we give everything we've got every week and give ourselves the best chance we can.
Outside of your group, people might be poring over that league table and analysing, and what football's like these days, everyone has an opinion. Does it matter to you if people write you off and say that's a big gap already, you're bottom of the league? Can that actually be a motivation? Do you ignore it completely? How does it work?
I think it's one of those, you've got to stay level-headed. Whether they say they're written off, whether they say you're unbelievable, I think you've got to keep on a level, level head really, because otherwise you start getting too down about it. You will find it very difficult to get yourself out of that perspective. Equally, if you go in overconfident, then you can find yourself in a bit of trouble as well. So it's about finding that fine balance really. You've got to go into the game with confidence, but at the same time not really letting too much affect you from the outside world.
How important potentially is a trip to Harrogate this weekend? There's a sort of big bunch of teams on a similar number of points just above those relegation places. If you can go there and get the 3 points, how much, obviously 3 points is going to help, but how much psychologically would that send a message?
Yeah, massively. I think, regardless of who we're playing this weekend, just like you said, getting that 3 points is first and foremost the main thing. But if you can do it against a team, where you can start clawing them back in, and all of a sudden they lose a bit of momentum, even better. So yeah, I think the main thing is obviously getting the 3 points whoever you come up against. But yeah, it'd be brilliant to try drag a few teams back in with us.
I think you've got one more point away from home than at home. Away fans tend to be pretty loud and pretty vociferous. How important are they in these away matches? I know you had good numbers at Barrow where you won the game. This is a small, tight stadium where people are close to the pitch. Just how much of a boost will they be giving you this weekend?
Oh, massive. Every week you see the fans travelling, and fair play to them. You look at last weekend, all the way down to Worthing. It's a really long journey, and they turned up in their numbers, and it's brilliant. A lot of clubs, their fans, if you bottom of the table, wouldn't turn up to games. They wouldn't be loud. They'd just be, they'd be unhappy. But fair play to the fans here, and all credit to them. They're brilliant week in, week out. They're so loud, and whether we play at home or away, it's just a real boost for us.
And I know most footballers, not all, but most are massive football fans themselves. Most love the game and have their own club. You know what it's like for those fans, don't you? How difficult it is to watch your team not winning.
Yeah, 100%. It's as much for them as it is for us. It's it's their livelihood. It's what they're here for. They pay their money to come watch us. They want success as much as we do, and we want to give it to them as well. So it's at the end of the game when we aren't getting those points, it's not just disappointing for our own sakes, but for the fans as well, and you feel the weight on your shoulders of that. So you want to do well and want to be sharing the joy with the fans as well.
And in some ways, Stuart, it's not the biggest fan base in the world, particularly away from home. Does that sometimes give you more motivation? I'm sure you recognise faces week in, week out. You may even have struck up relationships with fans who you actually know. Does that make it feel more personal rather than looking up and just seeing faces and faces and faces?
Yeah, 100%. You see, there's quite a big group that come week in, week out, whether it's home, away, wherever, and they'd be waiting outside the ground after the games, and the commitment that they show to the club and the players is it's absolutely exceptional. So like I say, you sort of get a better bond because you can give them that time, because there's not as many people. You can go around, you can speak to everyone, you can give them that time that it only takes 2 seconds for us. So, you know, anything we can do to help them is brilliant. And, you know, if they can keep supporting us, then we'll just keep supporting them as well.
And I guess you've got an awful lot in common as players and staff and fans. There's obviously so much talk of off the pitch and club being for sale and potentially protests going on. I think the thing you've got in common is that everybody wants this resolved. Everybody wants to try and concentrate on the football on a Saturday or a Tuesday.
That's the thing, yeah. The sooner it gets resolved, the better, really, because, you know, the club deserves better than it's getting at the moment. But as players, we just have to focus on ourselves, on the game at hand, and anything, you know, above us, we just leave. So regardless of what's going on, we just have to focus on the football, and that's all we're here to do, really. It would be great if it does get resolved soon, but it's out of our control, so we can't really do too much about that.
And I guess the thing you can control to reward the fans is out there trying to get those 3 points.
Exactly that, yeah.